It's part 7 of our conversation with John Anderson. I'm John Bowden from Rock History Music. Another one from a fan, Anthony B. asks, were the exits in the band, yes, personal or business? When you look back, why did people leave? Why did so many people leave?
It's very simple. It's very simple because when we started the band, Peter Banks, sweetest guy in the world, lovely guy, stopped coming to rehearsal at times, and you didn't feel that he was interested in, but he would jump this way and he would jump that way, musically speaking, but he just didn't seem to, no, to me, it just didn't seem like he was very sure of, I think I was used to giving him ideas, and he would say, okay, yeah, and then he'd do something else, and I'd say, okay. Well, that's not a communal band. When you give ideas to somebody, try them out, and if you don't like them, hey, you tried them out, it was a terrible idea, You can say that. So I was down in a club called the Speakeasy one night, and there's nobody in there. I'm walking around, and there's a band called Bodast, and there's a guy with this beautiful Gibson guitar, and I look up at this guitar, and man, this guy is on another planet guitar-wise, And I told Chris, I said, Steve Howe, got to get him in the band, and that's what we did. It was sad for Peter because he didn't focus at that time what was happening. And it was the same with Tony Kaye, that there's a certain amount of touring you can do and feel that somebody's just out there, doing his thing, but not really. I'd asked him to get a Moog or a different sounding instrument, and he said, no, I'm not interested in that. So I actually was touring with bass pedals that were created into a Moog sound. Stupid. And we'd just seen Rick Wakeman before the tour. We'd done a show with the Strobes. Rick was in the Strobes, and we'd done a show with them, and me and Chris looked at each other and said, that guy's good. And he's young, and he's got long blonde hair. And so on the way back from America, Steve and Chris came over and said, we've been talking about asking Rick to join the band. What do you think? I said, let's do it. And that was good, because it was good for the music. It was good for the band to evolve. And obviously Rick Wakeman was an incredible, and is an incredible player. It reminds me of some of the great jazz players that are getting better with age. They're just, man, just quite extraordinary. And he, again, where Steve brought in more chords than I'd ever imagined, there was Rick, and he could play Bach and Beethoven and Stravinsky with it. Well, I can do that,
Why is it, do you think, when I talked to Bill, I think a year and a half ago, and I talked to Alan, I think a little while before that, and I talked to a lot of artists of that era. I think you're the third yes guy. You're the guy I always wanted, though.
Oh, yeah.
Why is it that back then, like Bill said, well, I'd always thought the band would last. I know he left, but he said, I always thought the band would last a few years. And I hear that a lot from the guys from the Zombies. I just talked to them, and of course they only lasted a few years before they came up. Why is that? Why do you only think people say that?
Well, because if you look at the history of the Beatles, they had a 5-year span. I went to see them with my brother when they just broke. They had the first single on the radio, and we had a band, me and my brother, called the Warriors, and we went to see the Beatles in Southport, which is like 20 miles north of Liverpool. Nobody screamed until after the songs. Everybody listened to this band. They were great. They played their whole first album. And then there were love songs. They wrote love songs, and all of a sudden they went into Revolver and the White Album, and Sgt. Pepper's. Like, what an incredible growth, musically speaking. And when we started in '68, you give yourself a couple of years. 2 or 3 years. If you can get a record deal, maybe 3, 4 years, if you can get a record deal. And we were lucky. You know, we just stuck to the plan that we were going to be good on stage, good production, sound. We sold our souls to the sound devil. I wouldn't say devil, but because we toured with Iron Butterfly when we've been together a year or so, and we went on tour with Iron Butterfly, and we got to the sound rehearsals in Belgium, in Brussels. That was the first gig. And I think we'd finished the first album. And we just thought, we're going on tour with Iron Butterfly. A lot of people are going to be there. It's going to be good. And we walk into this theater auditorium. And lo and behold, there was a sound guy mixing the band in the middle of the seats. And they had these gigantic speakers left and right of stage. And they were sound checking and stuff. And I couldn't believe it. And it was the first time in Europe that had ever been seen. They had these gigantic speakers that you get in movie behind the screen, you know, in a movie cinema, and on top with these horns. So you had the woof of the bass drum and the bass and the brightness of that for the guitars and singing and stuff. And we used it, and I needed it very much. So I spoke to our manager and said, you know, we had a gig in London at the Albert Hall. And I said, we've got to get this sound system. Nobody's got a sound system like this in Europe. I know, for sure. So he said, well, we're going to have to take some of your publishing. I said, I don't care. Just give me the sound system. And then we were a band that was really playing good with 3-part harmonies. Yeah. And we sounded amazing. That was the key to that push with Yes in that first 2 or 3 years.
So you guys were realistic, though. I mean, I'm hearing that you that was a dream, but you were also realistic.
How do you mean? Sort of.
Well, the fact that if you gave yourself, well, we'll give it 2-3 years, because you know after 2-3 years, I mean.
Well, in some ways, there was a band from Birmingham called The Family, and they were very, very good. And I just said to myself, I think I said to Chris, as long as if we can get as good as The Family, I'll be happy, because they're good. But we just kept, and all of a sudden, Steve Howe joins the band, then Rick joins the band, and we'd been on tour of America with Jethro Tull, which was like mind-blowing, you know? Yeah. And I fell in love with America. I really did. I fell in love with the energy of America, and I'm an American citizen, and it took a while, but I just thought there's an audience out there for this kind of band, and we were getting great reviews in England and Europe and Japan then, and in America, and then we had Roundabout all of a sudden.
Yeah,
it was great. You know, it was really, really good.
Make sure you comment on our video, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos. I'm John Bowden from Rock History Music.